In this video, we will introduce diversification. Diversification represents another path that the firm can use to expand its corporate scope. Here, the firm is expanding and operating in multiple industries simultaneously, therefore operating in multiple product markets, potentially with different customers and with different products. Similar to all these different expansion paths, the better off and ownership test must be passed in order to diversify. Diversification essentially represents the decision of deciding which businesses or markets the firm should operate in. And in this graph, what you can see is corporate headquarters deciding which industries it should be in, and each of the strategic business units underneath headquarters, each one operates in its own separate industry. And what this means is that at the business unit level, or the SBU, each SBU has its own competitive strategy. And the corporate strategy element here of diversification is corporate headquarters managing which industries it should operate in, which ones it should add into, and which ones it should exit or divest from. As we think about what the better off and ownership tests look like for diversification, there are some slight differences from vertical integration. The better off test essentially asks, does the presence of the corporation in a given market or industry improve the total competitive advantage of the business units over and above what they would earn as if they were separate? These benefits from being better off tend to come from, first, economies of scope, where I leverage my core competency or leverage existing resources across multiple industries. Therefore, I'm getting more efficient use of those resources. Second, I may have multi-purpose or flexible assets that can be used across various industries. For example, my brand image or maybe my marketing capabilities. I might be able to cross-sell my products across multiple industries where I'm offering my products to various customer groups. And this allows me to, again, capture additional benefits. I may also offer my customers a one-stop shop if I operate in multiple industries that my customer purchases from. Assuming the better off test is passed, we now consider the ownership test. And here, again, the idea is, do we need to own the business unit in that industry to gain those better off benefits? Or can we use contracts or alliances and achieve the similar outcomes? And again, here we're comparing the cost of ownership versus the cost of contracting. And if the cost of contracting is lower, we don't actually own the diversification, the business unit that we're diversifying into. We diversify into an industry rather through a contract or through an alliance. However, if the cost of ownership is lower than the cost of contracting, then we should diversify and we should own those resources and own that division in the new industry. The diversification decision is based on providing superior profitability by expanding across industries. Essentially, the return on diversification must exceed the financial cost to diversify. This additional value can come from two sources. One, the attractiveness of the industry I'm entering. So is this an attractive industry in terms of it's profitable, it's growing, and if I enter, there's an opportunity to gather and obtain more profitability. The second form of profitability, or the second source of value, represents competitive advantage. Do I have a core competency that I can leverage that will help me generate superior profitability within that industry? In other words, for example, do I have a brand that if I leverage it into a new industry, that brand will provide me with additional value? Thus, what the firm is looking at is essentially answering two questions before I diversify. One, is the industry attractive? And then two, if the industry is attractive, if I choose to enter that industry, can I generate a competitive advantage given my resources and capabilities? As we start to think about that last question about the better off test and the generation of competitive advantage, it's helpful to point out where diversification often creates additional value. First, by diversifying across multiple related industries, I might allow myself to create market power. For example, Procter & Gamble operates in multiple industries that are all sold at a supermarket or a grocery store. As a result, that gives Procter & Gamble negotiating power with those grocery stores. I might also exploit linkages across businesses where resources are shared. Third, as noted before, I might have economies of scope where I can leverage the same core competency across multiple markets through the sharing of resources and capabilities. And because I have the same resource that's being leveraged, it saves me some money while generating additional profit. Fourth, I might have general management capabilities or abilities from headquarters that are pushed down to the business units, such as corporate management systems or culture that lead to generation of competitive advantage. And finally, there might be some economies from internalizing or diversifying, because there may be some synergies created that are only available if we jointly operate these two businesses together. One such example are internal capital markets or internal labor markets, where I can transfer capital and labor across divisions, the two divisions or the three divisions within my firm, whereas if I did not diversify and own those other divisions, I would not be able to transfer this capital. This provides me with a chance to create additional value. Thus, when we are assessing the Better Off test, we're looking for evidence of these different sources.